I never expected a black belt's playful challenge to lead to a heart-stopping moment in the gym. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air buzzed with nervous laughter and shuffling feet as my heart raced. I could feel the weight of the world crash upon my chest. Jack, my best friend since childhood, swaggered into the gym like he owned the place. His black belt swung at his waist, a badge of honor that made my palms sweaty. "Let's see what you've got, Amy," he grinned, that mischievous glint in his eye. The gym felt immense, the walls adorned with trophies and fading pictures of champions long gone. Every corner smelled of sweat and ambition. I swallowed hard, my throat tight and my heart clanging like a warning bell. The moment hung in the air, thick and heavy. Around us, other gym-goers paused, eyes glimmering with excitement and curiosity, whispers darting about like shadows in the evening sun. I couldn't refuse. This was Jack Me Rock, my confidant, the one person who saw me beyond my fears. But suddenly self-doubt seeped in like a cold rush. What if I failed? What if I embarrassed myself in front of everyone? My body trembled and a lump rose in my throat. As we squared up, I sensed the pulse of anticipation from the spectators. The world faded. Sweat trickled down my back. I focused on Jack's movements, the way he shifted his weight, the way his eyes honed in on me. In that millisecond, silence enveloped us, a breath before the storm. And then it happened. A loud pop echoed in the gym and Jack stumbled back, a low gasp escaping his lips. I watched, frozen, as color drained from his face and sweat glistened on his brow. Something wasn't right. His hand clutched his chest. The laughter was gone, replaced by horrified gasps. "Jack!" I screamed, the world narrowing to laser-like clarity. My heart pounded, the sound boomed in my ears like an explosion. I rushed forward, panic clawing at me, desperate to help. But what was happening? My mind raced as whispers filled the gym about heart problems and accidents. I fell to my knees beside him. Was he breathing? Everything shifted, the atmosphere electric, charged with fear and confusion. Tears pooled in my eyes, threatening to spill. I felt his pulse under my fingers, steady but slow and eerie calm amidst chaos. I had no idea what to do. He was my rock and now he looked vulnerable, gasping for air. I was losing him. Then the sirens wailed in the distance, an eerie reminder that help was on the way. But it felt like an eternity. The spectators were still crowding, their faces twisted with concern and disbelief. I could barely hear my racing thoughts above it all. What if I had said no? What if this challenge had never happened? Tension electrified the room. I needed answers, but all that surrounded me was a swirling storm of questions. As the paramedics burst through the gym doors, my heart sank further. Something told me this would change our lives forever. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The cold fluorescent lights flickered, cutting through the shadows as the paramedics worked on Jack. Time stretched and twisted around us, a fragile thread binding reality to agony. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. The world outside muffled like a faraway dream. Each second felt like a weight pulling me deeper into despair. Jack lay there, his face pale against the mat, the life that once filled his eyes dimming. I felt helpless, my hands shaking as I clutched the edge of the stretcher. "Don't you dare leave me," I whispered, though I wasn't sure if he could hear me. Panic set in and I let out a choked sob that echoed through the gym. The crowd was thick with uncertainty. Some had pulled out their phones, capturing the chaos, while others whispered amongst themselves, their eyes darting nervously. I felt their stares like daggers, judging, questioning what had just happened. "Is he going to be okay?" I heard someone ask, but their voice was drowned in an ocean of worry. "I don't know." I snapped, my voice breaking. Anger surged within me, directed at nothing and everything. How could this happen? It felt wrong. Jack couldn't leave me like this. He was my lifeline. Finally, the paramedics stabilized him and wheeled him out of the gym. A swirl of thoughts consumed me. How had he been so strong, so indomitable one moment, and then so fragile the next? Desperation gripped me as I grabbed my things, my heart screaming for answers. As I dashed outside, a warm breeze hit my face. It was a stark contrast to the icy pit in my stomach. I chased the ambulance, my breath coming in sharp gasps. A kind stranger stepped in my path, a young woman with tears shimmering in her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said softly, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Thank you," I managed, my voice strained. Her compassion struck a chord within me, sparking a tiny ember of hope amid the devastation. I followed the ambulance to the hospital, feeling every bump in the road like a bruise on my spirit. Upon arrival, chaos reigned. The sterile smell of the hospital mixed with the antiseptic stench of fear. I felt lost in the sea of white-coated figures and hurried footsteps. A nurse approached, her expression earnest. "You're here for Jack, right? He's in surgery now. It's going to take some time." "Time?" I echoed, grasping at that word like it could anchor me. The thought of Jack under the knife sent a new wave of panic crashing over me. I sank onto a plastic chair in the waiting area, my heart racing, every tick of the clock a reminder of how much was at stake. Hours passed slowly, each heartbeat echoing in my ears. I drew my knees up to my chest, hoping to wrap myself in the dwindling warmth of our friendship. We had shared laughter, fears, and dreams in this very gym, but here I sat, the gravity of what we had set into motion weighing on me. Then a familiar face broke through my fog of despair. Mia, one of Jack's oldest friends, rushed in with an air of purpose. "Amy, I heard what happened. Is Jack okay?" I don't know," I stammered, feeling that familiar lump rise in my throat again. "He's in surgery." "I should have." Mia took my hands in hers, her grip strong, an unexpected anchor in my tumult. "No, stop that. You didn't do anything wrong. You two are stronger than this." "Stronger than this," I repeated, the phrase cradling around my heart like a fragile promise. "But what if something happens? What if he doesn't make it?" Her eyes softened, shimming with resolve. "We can't think like that. Jack is a fighter. He'll pull through." As we sat together, a sense of camaraderie began to bloom. We shared stories and laughter about Jack's ridiculous antics, and slowly the burden shifted just enough for me to breathe. But just then the automatic door slid open and a doctor walked in, his expression grave enough to dim the flickering flame of hope in my chest. "Jack's condition is serious," he began, and I felt the world tilt beneath my feet. "There were complications during surgery, and he's going to need a lot of support moving forward." My heart dropped, the gravity of his words crashing into me like waves in a storm. I squeezed Emi's hand tighter as questions swirled through my mind. What did this mean for Jack? What did it mean for us? Before I could voice my fears, the doctor continued, "He'll be in recovery for a while. We're doing everything we can." In that moment, as the reality of our lives spiraled deep into uncertainty, a greater fear gripped me. How could I, who had always drawn strength from Jack, now be the one who had to support him? As I stared into the depths of the hospital's sterile hallways, I knew one thing: this was just the beginning of our journey, and I had no idea how I would navigate the storm ahead. The waiting room felt like a hollow chamber, imprisoning me with echoes of uncertainty. Every minute that crept by felt like an eternity, underscoring the pervasive dread wrapping around my heart. Jack was fighting for his life, and yet here I sat, helpless and paralyzed by fear. I tried to occupy my mind with thoughts of him, his laughter, his bright smile, the way he could turn any mundane moment into an adventure. But even those sweet memories felt tainted by the weight of his current struggle. Mia stayed close, her presence grounding me. We both stared at the muted television hanging in the corner, the flickering images doing little to distract us from the harsh reality of this space. The adorable golden retriever in a dog show bounced around the screen, and for a split second, I felt a chisel of humor push through my anxiety. "If Jack were here, he'd be heckling that dog for not doing tricks right," I murmured, and Mia chuckled softly. "Yeah," she replied, the corners of her lips lifting slightly. "And then he'd probably try to enter his cat next year just to upstage them." The laughter that followed was a tender, fragile thing, and the moment hung between us like a shimmering bead of hope, but as quickly as it came, the laughter evaporated, swallowed by the heavy cloak of worry that wrapped around us. The anticipation was almost unbearable. I leaned forward in my seat, eyes glued to the door like it was a portal to answers. Just then the door swung open once more, and my heart leaped at the sight of another doctor, This one different, there was a gentle warmth in the way he stepped into the room. "Are you family?" he asked, his voice low and calm, carrying a wind of reassurance through the heavy air. "Close enough," I replied, my throat dry, trying to project a facade of strength. I'm Amy, Jack's best friend." The doctor nodded and glanced at the clipboard in his hands. "Jack is stable now, but he has sustained significant injuries. He will be in recovery for some time. And there's a long road ahead of him." The words "long road" wrapped around my heart with a tightness that brought bile to the back of my throat. I forced myself to hold it together, wanting so desperately to exude the confidence I didn't feel. "What do you mean by significant injuries?" I asked, my voice trembling. "There are several broken ribs. And his lung was punctured during the fall. We managed to repair the lung, but he'll need extensive physical therapy and a lot of support in the coming months," he explained, each word landing like a stone in my stomach. "Months," I repeated, struggling to process the weight behind that singular word. "He'll be in pain. What if he can't do what he loves anymore?" The doctor's gaze softened. "It's important to remain hopeful. Jack is young and strong, and with dedication and support, many patients do make remarkable recoveries." Hope. The word felt foreign yet tantalizing, glimmering like a distant star in the night sky. I clung to it, yearning for it like air. "Can I see him?" I asked, my heart racing with the desire to be with him, to tell him I was here, that he wasn't alone. "Yes, but only for a moment. He's still under sedation," the doctor warned. Mia and I exchanged a glance, and there was a shared understanding that passed between us, a silent promise to be there for Jack, no matter what it took. She squeezed my hand before we both followed the doctor through the maze of corridors, the fluorescent lights flickering above us like our wavering hopes. As we entered the recovery room, the sterile scent of antiseptic flooded my senses. Jack was there, lying still on the white sheets, a tangle of machines surrounding him. My heart ached at the sight, the strong force of his spirit muted beneath the heavy weight of bandages and tubes. He was so still, and it terrified me. "Hey," I whispered, stepping closer. I felt an overwhelming urge to touch him, to remind him that I was there. "I'm right here, Jack. You're going to be okay. You have to be okay." In that silent moment of vulnerability, I watched for any flicker of recognition. His face remained serene, canvas of tranquility that contrasted sharply with my inner turmoil. Even in this state, however, I could feel him, his presence grounding me, filling the void created by fear. Just then, I noticed a subtle squeezing motion in his hand. My heart skipped as I leaned closer, unsure if I was imagining it. "Jack?" I pleaded softly, "if you can hear me, just squeeze my hand." Seconds that felt like hours passed before a gentle, barely perceptible pressure wrapped around my fingers. It was faint, but it was there, a thread of connection that sent a surge of hope coursing through my veins. "I'll be here for you. I promise," I murmured, tears filling my eyes as I felt the warmth of Emma's supportive presence beside me. But just then, a shadow loomed in the doorway, breaking our moment. A figure emerged, one I hadn't expected, a familiar face that made my breath hitch. It was Alex, Jack's estranged brother. A whirlwind of confusion and resentment clouding his expression. "What are you doing here?" I whispered, tension coiling between us like a coiled spring ready to snap as he stepped further into the room. "I came to see him," Alex said sharply, anger shimmering just beneath the surface. "Why now?" I shot back, my voice low and charged. "Because I'm still his brother, Amy. It's not your place to decide who gets to support him." The confrontation hung in the air, the rivaling emotions heavier than the world outside. As Jack lay fighting for his life, our personal battles threatened to unravel everything. How could we navigate the tempest of loyalty, fear, and the bonds that were fraying before our eyes? I felt Jack's grip weaken, and suddenly, the stakes were not just about his recovery, they were about family ties that had long been severed, now attempting to stitch themselves together in the most trying of circumstances. "No," I whispered, the warmth of hope beginning to flicker yet again, facing a new challenge that seemed insurmountable. And just like that, as the tension built, a new storm brooded on the horizon, a confrontation neither of us were prepared for, and a truth I had yet to confront lingered just out of sight. Who would truly be there for Jack when the dust finally settled? Every heartbeat echoed in the waiting room as I stood between Alex and Jack's unconscious body, memories of our past wrestling into the forefront of my mind. The air pulsed with unresolved tension, The kind you could almost taste, sharp, metallic, and daunting. I blinked away, the emotions swirling around, all too aware that the warmth of hope I just clung to was now flickering against the cold weight of this confrontation. "I didn't come here to fight with you," Alex said, his voice softer now, the anger ebbing for a moment in favor of vulnerability. I need to know that he's going to be okay." "Believe me, I want that too," I replied, feeling my internal conflict mirror the chaotic dynamics between us. I wanted to tell him that it wasn't just about who was allowed in Jack's life. It was about Jack needing all of us, perhaps more than he ever had before. "But we both know you haven't been around," I continued, each word feeling like a knife, yet laced with a strange compassion. "Things aren't black and white, Amy," he countered, stepping forward, the anguish in his eyes breaking through his tough exterior. "I messed up. I know I did. But right now, Jack needs to know that we're here for him." Before I could respond, the heart monitor's rhythmic beeping took on a frantic tone, sending a new wave of panic coursing through me. My heart raced as I turned to look at Jack, willing him to awaken, snapping me out of the tense confrontation. "We need to talk to him," I finally said, deciding to focus on the one thing we both agreed on, the love we shared for Jack. Alex pursed his lips but nodded. "Right. Let's do this together." We approached Jack's bedside, both of us locked in a momentary truce, and I craved a sense of unity and strength for him. "Jack," I whispered again, forcing the words past the lump rising in my throat, "we're here. You're not alone." I squeezed his hand, feeling profound uncertainty about whether he could hear me. "Come back to us, brother. Please," Alex added, his voice tight with emotion, the sincerity pouring out of him like a river breaking free after a long drought. My breath hitched, and I watched as his hand trembled while resting on Jack's blanket-covered leg. For a moment I thought I saw Jack's eyes flutter beneath closed lids, just a flicker, but it ignited hope within me, pushing away the lingering resentment I felt towards Alex. Just then, the door opened again, and the doctor entered with a somber expression that the mere sight of him instantly reversed the flickers of hope I had just gathered. "Are you family?" he asked, looking sharply between Alex and me. My heart sank again. I could sense the news wasn't good. "Close enough," I mumbled, this time with less confidence. I glanced at Alex, my eyes pleading. We were both wrestling with raw emotions, a bitter blend of fear and the impending reality that loomed darkly over us. "Jack is showing signs of distress," the doctor continued, his voice steady but the fear spilling into the edges of the room like shadow. "We need to prepare everyone for the possibility of complications." I wish I could say otherwise. My stomach dropped. Complications? I swallowed hard, feeling the walls of this sterile room close in around us as I forced myself to nod. Before the doctor could turn to leave, Alex spoke up, breaking the silence hung in the air. "Tell us what we can do," he said firmly, his posture shifting into a resolve I hadn't expected. There was an earnestness at play, sparked by desperation that softened the sharpness of his previous anger. "The best thing you can do for him is to remain calm. Talk to him, even if he can't respond," the doctor offered before stepping out, leaving us alone again, the weight of his words lingering like an uninvited guest. I looked at Alex, the man I once detested for abandoning Jack. "I never wanted this confrontation here," I admitted, raw honesty spilling forth from my heart. "But we have to put him first, okay? That's what matters." Alex nodded, and in that silent agreement, a fragile bridge began to unfurl between us, woven with our common concern for Jack. "You're right," he conceded, the flicker of understanding bridging over our wounds. "The past is nothing compared to what we need to do for him now." We both leaned in closer to Jack, two voices echoing through the unfathomable void threatening to overshadow everything. "You're stronger than this," I murmured, feeling tears threatening to spill. "And you're loved. Remember that time we teamed up against that bully at school?" Alex added, a sudden smile breaking through the anxiety. "You kicked his ass." I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. "Yeah, you were good bait. He didn't see you coming." As we strode down this newfound path, challenges lay ahead, but there was an unexpected tenderness in this brutal moment, and a flickering thread of hope began to weave itself into the fabric of our new reality. Healing wasn't just about the body, but the connection that bound us. Family, however frayed, could start to mend. Then, without warning, the heart monitor let out a sustained, sharp beep, breaking the fragile moment we had just begun to build. The doctor rushed back in, my heart clasped between the claws of fear once more. "We need you to step back," he said, urgency threading through his voice. My breath hitched as I watched them move with alarming precision. Panic rising in my chest, it felt like the very ground was crumbling beneath me as they began their frantic movements. I turned to see Alex, whose face mirrored my terror. The brother we both loved lay vulnerable before us, fighting against an unseen force. The last flicker of hope dimmed in an instant, plunging us into chaos as my heart shattered under the weight of an impending storm, a family torn and tested by time, desperate to cling to the one soul who might spark a new beginning. Even as chaos swirled around us, I felt time slow, stretching every second into an eternity. The doctors moved with meticulous urgency, shouts intertwining with the frantic beeping of machinisa, dissonant symphony of dread echoing through the sterile air. I squeezed Jack's hand tightly, anchoring myself in that one tangible connection, while all hope threatened to slip away like grains of sand through my fingers. "Stay with us, Jack. Don't you dare leave." I heard my voice rise above the turmoil, an almost primal plea that resonated deep within me. Each syllable dripped with desperation, and I caught a glimpse of Alex, whose expression held a mirror to my own fear, a blend of disbelief, regret, and unyielding hope. "Come on, man. We can't lose you," Alex echoed, his voice cracking under the weight of despair. It was raw, unfiltered emotion spilling forth for the brother he'd never fully known how to reach. In that moment, it felt as if a flickering candle of understanding had sparked anew between us. We were bound by grief, but also by the love we had both denied Jack. In our silence, suddenly, the physician stepped close, narrowing his gaze at the monitors, his hands deftly checking the connections and wires. "We need you both to step back. Please," he urged again, his voice calm, yet brimming with an urgency that rattled my insides. Reluctantly, we both took a step back, unwilling yet powerless. I stood on the edge of a tumultuous sea of uncertainty, consumed by the realization that we were just spectators in Jack's battle. The room transformed into an arena, every face a mask of tense anticipation. I watched, helpless, as the doctors collided with their tools, my heart racing louder than the machines surrounding us. But amidst the whirlwind, I noticed one of the nurses, her face serene amidst the chaos. She offered Alex a quiet nod, an act of silent understanding that whispered more than words could offer. "Look at me," she said softly, directing her focus to Alex. "He needs you to be strong. We'll do everything we can, but your presence, your support, it matters." Her conviction bloomed like a fragile blossom amid a storm, seeping its way into my heart and along the cracks created by fear. The grounding moments of connection that intersected with heartbreak filled me with courage, forging an unlikely alliance in the midst of this battle. I turned to see Alex nod slowly, absorbing the weight of her words. It was fragile, but it was some form of hope. "Stay close," I said, whatever resentment I'd felt towards him dissipating like mist. "He will need us both. We can't falter now." We stepped in close to Jack, holding on to the possibility of lifelines he couldn't visibly grasp. As the moment stretched, I found myself still tangled in fears of a life without him, yet resolute to fight for him. "Drawing strength from the love of those who surround you isn't weakness, Jack," I whispered fiercely. "You're more than just flesh and blood to us. You're a part of our very souls." And then it happened. The heart monitor's sound began to stabilize. I saw the doctor relax slightly, exchanging a look with his team that hinted at something I dared not believe. The ground beneath my feet felt a little steadier just for a moment. "All right, we're making progress," he said. "His vitals are improving." Relief rolled over me in waves, mixing inextricably with the uncertainty that lingered like dark clouds. But joy felt too risky, too ephemeral, like a fleeting dream on the brink of shattering. Yet, alongside that shred of hope sprouted doubt. Could this just be a brief reprieve? Would Jack fight back? Or was this calm merely the eye of the storm? Amidst the complex emotion swirling within, an unexpected memory washed over me. Jack's smile as he showed us his latest belt in karate class, fiercely defending his title against anyone who dared challenge him. "Did you see that move?" He had beamed proudly, and we had teased him endlessly about his competitive spirit, never anticipating how critical that spirit would become. "Jack, you've got this," I urged him again. "Remember that champion spirit." Suddenly, like a lightning bolt from the sky, the door flew open, and a figure burst into the room. Sam, our childhood friend, breathless and wide-eyed. I heard. "What's happening?" She was a burst of light in an increasingly dark world, her kindness a beacon. But before we could explain, her gaze fell on Jack, and understanding flickered across her face. Without hesitation, she joined us at his side, grasping his other hand with a tender grip. "Come back to us, Jack. Your friends need you." In that moment, surrounded not just by family but also by a friend, the weight of isolation began to lift. There was a flick-era warmth enveloping the hopelessness, interconnected by a simple act of solidarity. But just as we began to feel the tide of hope turn, Jack's heart rate quickened suddenly, the loud beeping of the monitor shattering the fragile moment with a frantic urgency. My heart sank again, terror clawing at my throat. Then his eyes opened panicked and wide, darting around before locking with mine. "Jack," I gasped, rushing closer again, but I couldn't find the words. He was with us. Yet at that moment fear clawed its way back, whispering of uncertainties. What would he say? What could he remember? In those now unfathomably deep seconds, his eyes widened even more, and he struggled to speak, the raw desperation to relay thoughts his heart was racing to articulate. And then just as suddenly his gaze flicked past both of us, resting ominously on something behind me. I turned confused as a blood-curdling gasp escaped my lips. The door creaked again, this time revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. My breath caught, hanging in the air, as an unexpected and harrowing revelation struck. The face before me, familiar yet foreign, was one I prayed never to see again. "Amy," it murmured, low and haunting, the name rolling from lips I had long wished to forget. The room spun as I struggled for balance, the old wounds opening anew as fear coiled tightly within my chest. Everything stood poised on the edge of an impending emotional crash, leaving me with an agonizing question. Could we still hold on, or would we be swallowed by the darkness that lingered just beyond our reach? The echoes of the name carved through the air, shattering the tenuous thread of relief we had begun to weave. Amy's breath hitched, and the world blurred around the edges as my mind raced to comprehend her presence. The feeling was akin to stumbling upon a ghost in a long-forgotten room filled with memories I desperately wished to leave untouched. "Why?" I whispered, the word barely escaping my lips as a torrent of emotions crashed upon me. The room felt suffocating, the shadows stretching ominously at her arrival. Jack's breathing was rapid, each inhale a reminder that I needed to remain anchored. But my heart protested, thumping wildly. "Leave," I demanded, barely a hiss. "You shouldn't be here." But when I looked at her, I saw more than just the girl I had once known. I saw the shards of our shared past tumble amidst the chaos. Amy had been a part of Jack's life, a fleeting yet significant figure that had somehow become entwined with our family in ways I had failed to grasp. "Please let me help," she implored, her eyes flitting to Jack, who was still connected to several machines, their beeping now an anxious reminder of our precarious reality. "He needs us." I couldn't trust her, not now, not amid Jack's fight for life. Yet, amidst the upheaval of emotions, there was a flicker within me, a sliver of recognition that perhaps Amy had changed. But this was not the time for past grievances and doubts. "What do you even know about what he needs?" I spat, angry and hurt, feeling the fracture lines of our collective history threatening to swallow up the semblance of support we had formed. Alex's hand on my shoulder was a gentle reminder that I wasn't in this alone. He took a deep breath before stepping towards Amy, eyes locked onto hers. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice steady despite the chaos swirling around us. "I heard about the accident," she said, tears welling in the corners of her eyes. "I came as soon as I could. I don't know if I can do anything, but I want to be here for him." "I don't understand," I muttered, shaking my head. Beneath the remnants of resentment, something softer battled to breathe. Amy had always been resilient, but I was terrified that her resilience would reignite feelings and tensions I had buried deep. Jack's eyes fluttered shut, and the monitors stirred with agitation, sending ripples of panic through us. "No, Jack," I cried out, stepping closer again, desperate for his gaze to return to mine. Did he recognize her? Did he remember what she had meant to him? My heart was a battlefield, but I had to remain steadfast, to shield him from whatever shadows had drifted back into his life. "Trust me," Alex urged, and I could see the tension in his usually unwavering demeanor. He turned to Amy, and for a fleeting moment, I saw their potential connection as allies wash over his expression. "If you truly want to help, hold his hand and remind him of the guy he is, the fighter." I didn't want to feel the bond that was forming, But I could feel Ida's silent understanding of shared love and concern radiating between Alex and Amy. I watched as she knelt beside Jack, her fingers curling around his limp hand, hesitant yet determined. "Jack, it's Amy," she said gently. "You're not alone. We're all here. We need you. Fight for us." Tears streamed down her cheeks, mirroring the pain that pocketed my heart. I wanted to reject her presence, to push her away for the ignited memories, the bitter taste of betrayal and the past we shared. Yet deep down a part of me understood. Jack had loved her once. Perhaps this culmination of feelings could spark something to pull him from the brink. Jack's fingers twitched slightly under her grip, and hope surged through my veins. "Hold on," I said, locking my gaze to his. "You're going to be okay, just keep fighting. Remember the karate belt you always cherished. Remember the moment when you faced down your fears in the ring. You can do this." There it was, the spark. As Jack's breathing began to steady, the quiet murmurs from Alex and Amy blended into a symphonic backdrop as I held my breath, each beat of his heart a testament to our collective struggle. But just as I dared to let a sliver of hope crack through the darkness, another shadow loomed at the door. A figure emerged, edged with urgency. My heart sank further as I recognized the unmistakable presence. His father, Owen, striding in with fear etched on his face, oblivious to the pain that would inevitably cascade when he laid eyes on Amy. "What is she doing here?" Owen's voice thundered, the room stilling as every soul turned toward him. Tension thick enough to suffocate us all, with fate teasing at the edges. I squeezed Jack's hand tighter, knowing now that whatever shadows loomed might just eclipse the light we were desperately trying to kindle for him. I had spent years building walls, only to find them cracking under the weight of the moment, poised on the precipice of revelation. The balance had shifted, and the stakes had never been higher. Would love conquer all? Or would our collective ghosts come back to pull us beneath the tide of despair? The silence settled like a heavy fog, thick and choking. I could feel Jack's heart rate quickening beneath my fingers, the rhythm echoing my own growing despair. Owen's presence transformed the air into sharpened glass, and every breath I took felt like I was suffocating afresh. "What is she doing here?" His words cut through the tension, shattering the fragile moment we had begun to stitch together. "Amy, she came to help," I stammered, but the words felt inadequate. Owen's anger wasn't just directed at her. It seemed to encompass everything we were fighting against. The years of family bonds, the unspoken betrayals, the trust that had splintered into an array of conflicts. The weight of it all was palpable in the room. "I don't care who she is," he snapped, his gaze a storm brewing on the horizon. "You both need to leave. This isn't a reunion." His eyes bore into mine, igniting a fire that made my stomach twist. "Oh, Owen," I pleaded, desperate to hold on to the one flickering light we had. "We need her. Jack needs everyone right now, no matter what the past holds." I could feel Amy's eyes, half hopeful, half terrified, hinting at the turmoil inside me, but I couldn't let her see. I needed to focus on Jack. "Does he?" Owen countered, voice rising. "That girl hurt him, and he's lying in that bed because of all of this. You really think she's helpful?" A part of me was startled at the aggression, the accusation. I had seen Owen as a protector, but in this moment, he felt like a judge holding the gavel over the remnants of our family. The weight of his disapproval hung heavy, threatening to unearth all the buried resentments I had thought we'd left behind. Amy's voice broke through the utterly frayed atmosphere. "I'm not here to hurt him again," she implored, tears spilling down her cheeks, mirroring my own hidden fears. "I don't want to be part of the past. I want to help him, for both of you, for us. Save it." Owen's voice was cold, dismissive. "You're not welcome here." The room felt like it was collapsing inward. Jack's breathing was shallow, and the sounds of the machines compounded my growing dread. I looked at Jack, wishing desperately for his eyes to open and take in this fractured family writhing around him. Would he recognize his father, his mother, the girl who had once filled his heart with laughter? As the silence deepened, a small glimmer of hope erupted from the darkest corner of my heart. Maybe this was it. Maybe Jack needed to hear it all, to know that we were unearthing every piece of an intricate puzzle to bring him back. "Please," I breathed, summoning every shred of courage I had. "Let's not do this now. Not when Jack needs us all to be strong. We don't have to forgive, but we have to be here. For him." "Forgive?" Owen's laughter was bitter, slicing through the air. "You think that's what this is about? Trust is what we need to rebuild, not simply being here in this moment." You both, you're tangled in memories I can't stomach. Memories don't stop being real just because you refuse to face them, Owen. I shot back, hurt and anger mixing together until it was hard to differentiate between them. We can't erase the past, but Jack needs us no more than ever. The tension crackled like static in the air, and for a brief heartbeat, I thought I saw a flicker of understanding in Owen's eyes. But then his expression hardened, and it was gone, replaced with a flash of pain that I hadn't anticipated. He turned toward Jack, anguish deepening the lines on his face. What about what I need? He whispered, almost to himself. What about your son? As if responding to his turmoil, Jack's hand twitched again, drawing our eyes back toward him. There was a rattle, and the machines blared louder, piercing the weight of the moment, a siren song resonating with an urgency that swept us all up in its tide. Jack! I cried out, instinctively leaning in closer, my heart hammering with fear. You can do this. My voice must have reached him somewhere deep down because his eyelids began to flutter and Owen surged forward, but I caught his arm, grounding him with a fierce determination. Don't! He hears us. And then, in a moment suspended in time, Jack's eyes fluttered open, the unmistakable warmth of familiarity shining through. Was he aware of Amy, or the tension that still thrummed through the room? Hey buddy, I whispered, hoping my voice would wrap around him like a lifeline. We're all here. Fight for us. But the light in his eyes flickered uncertainly, and in that very heartbeat, he turned toward Amy, confusion dancing across his features. Why? He croaked, the pain of the past surfacing like an uninvited guest. My heart shattered. All this time we had fought and bickered, hoping to shield him from the pain. Yet here it was reality refusing to fade into the shadows what tried so hard to create. Jack's struggle wasn't just against the physical, but against everything that had been woven into the fabric of our lives. Desperate to reach him, I squeezed his hand tighter, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath my fingers, willing him to hear me. You're not alone, Jack. Fight. Remember how strong you are. And yet, as I swallowed the lump lodged in my throat, I couldn't shake the feeling that his journey was only beginning. As much as we wanted to pull him from the abyss, the question remained, would our tangled web of hurt be the anchor that pulled him to safety or the force that dragged him deeper into despair? With Owen standing frozen, caught in the whirlwind of emotions, and Amy's gaze filled with longing, uncertainty spiraled through the room like storm clouds threatening to rain down chaos on a moment carved out for healing. We were at a precipice, trembling above an abyss, with hope battling alongside trepidation, a fragile moment poised on the knife's edge, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the true storm was just beginning to gather. In the stillness after Jack's uncertain moment of lucidity, the air thrummed with a desperate hope but also an undercurrent of dread. I glanced at Owen, his jaw clenched tight, as if he were deciding whether to unleash the storm brewing inside him or to hold back and protect Jack from further anguish. Jack's eyes darted between us, confusion etched deep into his features. Why? He croaked again, the single word hanging like a lead weight, pressing down on the fragile bond we were trying to piece together. Amy, I started, but all words faltered in my throat. I hadn't prepared for this moment, for the raw truth of our history to lay bare before him. How could I explain the complexity of our lives, the tangled threads of love and hurt? Before I could collect my thoughts, Amy leaned closer, her voice trembling but resolute. Jack, I'm here because I care about you. I never wanted to hurt you or your family. I just want a chance to help, she said, her eyes pooling with unshed tears. Help? Owen's voice dripped with skepticism, and I could see the anger simmering just beneath the surface. This isn't just about you, Amy. You don't get to waltz back in and play the hero after everything. He stepped closer to her, his tone low but fierce. You have no idea what you've done, what you've caused. My heart raced. We were at a tipping point. If Owen unleashed his fury on her, it could tip the fragile stability Jack managed to grab hold of right back into chaos. No, I shouted, stepping between them. We can't do this. Not now. Not when Jack needs us to be united. Tension crackled again in the air as Jack's breathing grew heavier, his brow knotting with confusion and distress. Am I what's happening? He croaked, glancing between the three of us. We're just worried about you, buddy, I tried to reassure him, squeezing his hand tighter. His warmth was a stark contrast to the chill wrapping around my heart. I couldn't let him see the chaos we were spiraling into. You're safe here. We need you to focus on healing. As if he could sense the storm around him, Jack's expression shifted. Healing, he whispered, his gaze drifting off as though he was chasing a memory just beyond reach. Why does it feel like I don't know who to trust? The question reverberated through me, and I felt a pang of guilt. Had I unintentionally crafted this tangled web of doubt and discord? I'm sorry, Jack, Amy said, her voice breaking into a quiver. I know I hurt you and I will make it right. Just give me a chance and no more chances. Owen interjected sharply, his face a mask of turmoil. We can't keep repeating the past, Amy. You made your choices. I could see Jack flinch at Owen's words, a flicker of pain crossing his features. What choices? He asked, panic rising in his voice. What happened? What did I miss? Why can't I remember? I felt a wave of desperation wash over me. The memories we had fought to shield him from were now rising like ghosts from the grave, demanding to be acknowledged. I needed to step in. Jack, you've been through a lot. I hesitated, choosing my words carefully, desperately trying to borrow courage from the air. There was an accident. You just need to focus on getting better. Well, take care of everything else. But a shadow passed over his face, a fear lacing his brows. But I need to know if you're all fighting. How can I be okay? At that moment the door creaked open and we turned to see the doctor enter the room, a clipboard in hand. His presence cut through the emotional chaos like a blade, shifting our attention. Jack? How are you feeling? The doctor's authoritative calm seemed to provide a momentary reprieve. We're monitoring your progress closely. I need you to stay focused, okay? Everyone here wants the best for you. Jack nodded hesitantly, but I could see he was still lost in the ebbs and flows of our turmoil. Before I could respond, the doctor's expression shifted ever so slightly, a crack of concern sneaking past his professional facade. You're making improvements, but we'll need to start some tests soon, he continued. We need to see how your mind is responding, especially with everything that's going on emotionally. Tests. The word reverberated ominously in my mind, sending a wave of dread coursing through me. What if they revealed things we weren't ready to face? Emotional responses can be unpredictable during recovery, the doctor added, casting a glance at Amy and Owen, gauging the tension in the air. I suggest, can we just give him a moment? I interrupted suddenly, unable to bear the thought of a clinical diagnosis intruding on this fragile moment. He needs to process everything we all do. All right, the doctor conceded, a hint of understanding softening his expression. But don't take too long. The sooner we address these underlying issues, the healthier the pathway to recovery. As he stepped back, the silence deepened, and I felt the weight of uncharted territory crush down on us again. Jack's eyes were glossed over, brimming with uncertainty. I hated seeing him wavering, unsure of the ground beneath his feet. Jack, I know we are all hurting right now, I said softly, but whatever happens, I need you to trust me, trust us. His gaze flitted between me, Amy, and Owen, the layers of history and hurt swirling like a storm. And in that moment, as we hovered on the edge of a chasm, I feared the revelation of our past might be the very thing that would unravel him entirely or set us all free. But then Jack turned to me, his expression suddenly focused but pained. What if, he whispered, his breath shaky. What if I can't come back from this? My heart dropped. I had never thought there would be a version of Jack that wouldn't emerge fighting. My world threatened to fracture again. And just like that, we stood on the precipice, the quiet void of uncertainty ahead, wondering if hope could sustain us, or if the weight of our combined struggles would pull us under instead. The ticking clock on the wall seemed to mock the silence, each second dragging painfully as we all searched for the right words to pull us back from the edge. I glanced at Amy, her eyes brimming with unspoken regrets, and then at Owen, who stood rooted to the spot, a tempest brewing behind his stoic facade. It was Jack's soft voice that broke the stillness again, his words like shards of glass cutting through the air. What if I can't come back from this? He repeated, agony lacing his tone. The room felt smaller, the four of us tangled in a web of emotions: fear, anger, love. Each thread pulled taut as I wrestled with how to respond. Jack, you've already begun to fight, I said, desperation creeping into my voice. You're here. You're with us, and that means everything. But he shook his head, a resigned grief settling over him. You don't understand. Every time I close my eyes, it feels like I'm losing pieces of myself, pieces that I can't get back. Each word landed heavy in my chest. The truth was I was afraid too. With every small flicker of hope that emerged, there was an equally pressing fear of what could happen if Jack slipped away into the fog of unknowing again. It's okay to be scared, Amy said softly, her voice breaking the tension, a gentleness woven through her tone that seemed to radiate toward Jack. You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out together, I promise. Owen scoffed, unable to contain himself any longer. Together? That's rich coming from you, Amy. What you've done, what you put him through. Stop it, I shouted, the walls of the room echoing with my sudden outburst. This isn't the time. Jack flinched at our exchange, and in that moment, I knew our conflict was pushing him further into the shadows of uncertainty. I took a breath, steadying my voice as I looked at Jack, trying to find the glimmers of the man I knew. Please, Jack, don't let this define you. You're more than this moment. A single tear slipped down his cheek, reflecting the pain of 1,000 memories lost, and it shattered something deep within me. I don't know how, he whispered, vulnerability threading through his voice. Hope flickered in my chest as I considered my next words carefully. Let's take it one day at a time. One moment at a time, I urged, desperation honing each syllable. You can rebuild from here. Rebuild? Jack's laugh was empty and fractured, its sound ricocheting off the sterile walls. What if I don't even know what I'm rebuilding into? Before I could respond, a second knock on the door broke through the haze. It opened slowly, revealing an elderly woman, a hospital volunteer I recognized. Her kind smile radiated warmth, bringing a soothing balm to our tumult. Excuse me, I hope I'm not interrupting, she said gently. I come bearing some comfort. She held a small tray in her hands, offering us each a teacup brimming with steaming herbal blend. It's chamomile. It helps with anxiety and promotes healing, she explained, her voice a warm breeze in the fraught atmosphere. Jack blinked at her, confusion mingling with a spark of curiosity, as if the idea of comfort in a teacup was foreign yet fascinating. Thank you, he muttered, a hesitant smile breaking through the heaviness as we each took a cup. The simple act somehow grounded us. The warmth seeped into my palms, slowly easing some tension. I caught Owen's gaze, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of acceptance in his furrowed brow. Sometimes, the woman continued, looking directly at Jack, we can only see peace when we take a moment to breathe. So take your time. You don't need to rush into the fight. Healing itself can be a brave journey. Her voice carried a wisdom that stirred something in me, and I felt a glimmer of hope bloom timidly within my chest. For a brief moment, it brought us together in a shared silence, allowing Jack's uncertainty to float in the air like smoke, while a fragile thread of connection began to weave through us. Maybe we can try this together, I suggested quietly, nodding at the tea, at the unexpected kindness that had just breezed through the room to touch all our hearts, even just a little. Jack lifted the cup to his lips, hesitating, and I could tell he was wrestling with the idea of finding comfort in something simple. I don't know if that's enough, he said, his voice low. I think it is, Amy replied softly, her eyes shimmering with emotion. It's the little moments that will help you stand tall again. One cup, one breath at a time. Jack finally took a sip, the steam curling around him like a gentle embrace. For a flickering moment, the storm inside him quieted just slightly. But as the unease persisted beneath the surface, the doctor suddenly re-entered, and the room tightened again as he glanced at each of us, uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. Jack, I need to discuss your test results, he said, his tone shifting to one of gravity. In that instant, the flicker of hope was eclipsed by the insistent shadows of uncertainty. I sensed Jack tense again, his body rigid as he dropped the cup, the fragile porcelain shattering, mirroring my own heart as it threatened to crack under the pressure. The moment lingered. We were teetering on the brink of discovery, the contents of Jack's mind threatening to spill over. Before anyone could find a chance to speak, the doctor leveled his gaze at Jack. There's something we need to look into, something that could change everything. The room held its breath, the air thick with fear and anticipation. Jack's eyes widened as the world around us disintegrated into a muted background, the illumination of newfound certainty flickering dimly, casting us all into shadows once more. The words hung heavy in the air like a dense fog, obscuring every flicker of hope we had just begun to cultivate. I could see the twinge of fear in Jack's eyes, a reflection of the tempest swirling within me. What do you mean? He managed to croak, his voice shaky, as if he were grasping for something solid to anchor him amidst the chaos. Your tests have shown signs of trauma we didn't anticipate, the doctor continued, his tone steady but laced with a gravity that made my heart plummet. You've experienced memory loss due to the head trauma, but there's also potential psychological impacts we need to evaluate. Just when I thought the fracture couldn't deepen anymore, it did. Jack's face fell, a mixture of anger and despair contorting his features. So what does that mean for me? Those words pierced through the tension, cutting to the very heart of what we all feared. What if he never regained who he was? What if the light that had shone so brightly in him dimmed irreparably? The vulnerability in his gaze ignited an undeniable pulse of anguish within me. As I struggled to find the words to comfort him, Amy stepped forward. Jack, we'll figure this out together. You're not alone in this fight, she insisted, her voice surprisingly steady. It was as if her presence had transformed from a source of tension into a binding force, galvanizing our resolve. I don't even know who I am anymore, Jack whispered, his voice breaking slightly, and I felt my heart shatter at the rawness of his pain. We're here to help you remember, Alex added, stepping into the space between us. Let us help you rediscover who you are, piece by piece. Whatever has happened between yous, it doesn't matter now. You're still our brother, our friend. Jack's gaze dropped to the floor as if taking in the weight of those words, and I could sense the distance still lingering in him. But I couldn't give up. Jack, you are more than your mistakes or memories, I urged, drawing closer, searching for a flicker of recognition in his eyes. What matters is that you fight to come back to us. You can rebuild your strength, redefine yourself. He lifted his head, the shadows of uncertainty dancing across his features. What if I don't want to be rebuilt? What if I can't? His voice cracked, his fear spilling over into the open. Before I could respond with all the reassurances I wished to offer, the doctor interjected gently. It's normal to have these fears, Jack. Recovery is complex, more challenging than you might imagine. But you are surrounded by people who care deeply for you. He gestured to each of us, emphasizing the unity we were trying to forge. Your loved ones are your support system. I felt a wave of emotion swell within me as I glanced at the three people standing beside me. Was this truly enough to pull Jack back from the brink? Could we really confront the shadows of the past together? Just then, the nurse re-entered the room, her smile infectious as she placed a gentle hand on Jack's shoulder. Jack, remember how we talked about your strengths? Your resilience? Let's hold on to that as we navigate this journey together. I breathed in that moment, feeling the warmth of her compassion weave through the thick tension, letting it illuminate the cracks of uncertainty. Everyone's gaze turned back to Jack, the warmth of the collective hope igniting a flicker in the depths of his eyes. I stepped closer again. You are not defined by your past. You have the power to reshape who you want to be. Gradually, Jack's breathing steadied, the chaotic rhythm of his pulse settling into something calmer. What if I can't be the same person? What if I don't recognize the changes? That's the beauty of it, Jack, I assured him, gripping his hand more firmly. You get to redefine who you are. It's your story to write. And as you step forward, we'll be here to help you, reminding you that every part of you is still valued. Jack searched my gaze, lingering on the sincerity reflected back at him. For a moment, I thought I could see a glimmer of recognition in his eyes, as if he belonged once more in the narrative we had woven together over the years. And then, without warning, tears spilled down Jack's cheeks, raw and vulnerable. I'm so tired of fighting. I don't know how much strength I have left, he admitted, his voice trembling with palpable emotion. Just lean on us, I urged, my own tears threatening to fall, mirroring his pain. Let us be your strength when you feel weak. We will fight together, every step of the way. In that moment, a subtle shift began to transform the atmosphere. The shadows of uncertainty still lingered, but with every word spoken, a flicker of light began to bloom between us. As Jack took a deep, steadying breath, the soft encouragement of our collective voices wrapped around him like a shield. And if we stumble, Amy added softly, we will brush ourselves off, learn, and rise again together. A sense of unity built in the room, a tangible tether binding our hearts together as we navigated the depths of our shared vulnerability. The storm might rage on, but we stood together, willing to face it. Promise? He whispered, looking at each of us in turn. I promise, I replied first, my heart resolute. I watched as Alex, Amy, and even Owen echoed the sentiment, each voice lifting our collective harmony. With those simple words, a moment of clarity dissolved the fog, illuminating the path forward. Jack smiled through his tears, and for the first time, I saw a hint of his old spirit flicker back to life. "Okay," he said, voice stronger now, nearly reclaiming its boldness. "Let's fight." In that moment, as hope surged through the room, I knew we had ignited something powerful, an unwavering bond fortified by love, resilience, and a shared journey toward healing. As we all leaned closer, a sense of overwhelming gratitude filled my heart. I had once feared that the shadows would consume us, but instead, they had forged an unexpected alliance, pushing us further into an intricate web of profound connection. And as I glanced around at my friend Owen's hesitant acceptance, Amy's fiercely tender heart, Alex's unwavering resolve, I knew we would face whatever came next, hand in hand. Because together we had redefined our scars, turning them into pathways that would lead us toward a brighter tomorrow. In that charged moment, I understood that our resilience lay not in the avoidance of pain, but in the embracing of love, forgiveness, and unyielding support. And as we stood united, the last lines of this chapter began to take shape in my mind, a reflection of our journey, the entwined stories of loss and healing that would resonate for years to come. Sometimes it is only when we learn to embrace our darkness that we can finally bask in the light.